Joining us now here on the MMA Report on Radio Influence, a man that's going to be fighting here at Valor Fights, as he's going to be in a UMMAF 265-pound qualifier. It is Gavin Walker, who is 4-2 in his career, and he'll be taking on Justin Gooden. Gavin, appreciate the time. Former Division III football player and All-American at Maryville College. First off, what made you decide that your football days are coming to an end, that MMA was the route for you?
Actually, in high school, I really liked, watching it and everything. And I started with Casey Oxendine doing some jiu-jitsu and Tyler Mitten and those guys and all that. And then I stopped for a while and, played ball, did some military service, and was a bodybuilder. And honestly, I had a girlfriend, my ex now, but I had a girlfriend that I just fought for, to get her back. I wrote her a letter, and she had once told me if it meant marrying me, would you give up bodybuilding and all the crap that goes with it? And at first I was like, it's kind of messed up to ask me to do that. And we broke up over the summer, and I wrote her a letter, out, and I said, you know what, I'll step back into MMA after 2 years. I'll come to your sport to show you I love you. And I totally did it, and trained my tail off and absolutely just committed all summer to it. And then I fought, won, everything worked out, got her back. Obviously we're not together anymore, so it didn't work out fully, but it worked out for a while. And then once I started training, now I love it. It keeps me out of trouble. If I didn't have MMA, I would go insane. I mean, I'm a bull, I have to fight. If I don't, I'm crazy. So that's pretty much the answer to that question. Basically an ex-girlfriend got me back into it, and now I do it for me and God. God's the main thing for me. So I'm honestly, I just want to use it to witness to as many people as possible.
In terms of football, bodybuilding, what type of skills were you able to take from those competitions into MMA that you believe gives you an advantage over, guys who are just MMA fighters?
Well, I would say, in football, MMA is not really a team sport. It is from the aspect of who you train with, but, once you are in that cage, you're by yourself. And bodybuilding, definitely, as far as bodybuilding goes, you're competing against yourself. You are your biggest enemy, and that's huge for me because I am my biggest enemy. When I look in the mirror, I see flaws, and that's who I'm fighting. I'm never scared of the guy I'm fighting. And I think with bodybuilding, you're on stage by yourself, so you get to compete. So I was already prepared after I'd done that, to go into something. This is on me. It has nothing to do with other people. And as far as football goes, football really teaches you a lot. It teaches you the toughness, all the dedication, the will, fight through pain, fight when you're losing, and that's probably the hardest part, because there's parts in fights where you're going to be losing and you need to come back and win a round or knock them out. And just doing that my whole life and being physically active has really, really just shaped me, and it shaped my mentality. I would say football and bodybuilding has just really changed my mind and made me not mentally weak. It made me very mentally strong and very physically strong, because they're both physical sports. You're always lifting weights and always fighting, to be better than the other person. And I had great coaches all in both those areas, so that definitely, those guys hooked me up very well. And I would say that's pretty much all that. That's pretty much everything.
And of course, I've talked to a lot of guys who've have transitioned from football into MMA, and it seems to be a common thing. And I don't know whether you agree with this. A lot of guys feel that because of the amount of film study that goes into being a football player, that is ultimately one of the biggest things in the sport, is that you're able to sit in front of a television set and break down things to where ultimately it makes the fight game easier. Do you view it that way, or do you view it differently?
I think it really depends on the division you're at. If you're at the pro level of UFC, something like that, probably. I do believe in researching your opponent. I believe in doing everything it takes to win, So I definitely, if I have an opponent, I'm going to look film up on him. I'm going to watch him. I'm going to see what he does, where his mistakes are and everything. But I don't really personally, I think that's all good. I think you should do it if you're taking it very seriously. I think it's definitely something worth to look at. But at the end of the day, you can have a game plan, but as Tyson says, once you get hit in the face, that game plan completely changes, because you cannot really fully prepare for what they're going to do. you can have an idea of it and you can do your best to adapt to it. But that's what the game is about, is adapting to what happens. So when I go in there, I worry about what I'm going to do. I don't worry about what he's going to do. I don't really think watching film is going to make or break you, because chances are they've watched film on me, and I like to go in my opponent's head and know what he's thinking. What is he thinking that I'm going to do? And then I'm going to change it up and do something different, So at the end of the day, I would say, yeah, I like film. I think it's good. Definitely watch it if it's on there, but it's not going to make or break you. But I think for if you have a really good trainer at a higher level, they can definitely break your opponent down for you and show you where he's weak, and that helps. But other than that, your game plan needs to be just to go in there and adapt. Do what you're supposed to do what you're comfortable with, and adapt to whatever he does.
4-2 so far here in your young career. What is the biggest lesson you've learned in your 6 fights?
I would say definitely do not let it go to decision. I mean, the only fights I've lost were, I lost a title fight, and it was, just being honest, had a great opponent but it was BS. I had him up against the cage 7.5 minutes out of 9 minutes. I don't know how you lose a fight doing that. And I remember when I first lost that, I'd been going through some stuff before the fight, but my ex, she was more upset about it than I was. And I hadn't watched the video on it yet. And I thought, well, maybe I, didn't do as much as I could have or whatever. And, but once I watched the video, there was just no questions that I won the fight. There were no questions. And, for me, I realized you just don't need to leave it in the judges' hands. In Tennessee, I can't speak for everywhere, but a lot of it's not that the judges are bad, but they're paying $50 for a certification, and then that's it. They don't have to have any experience fighting or anything like that. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable leaving that in someone's hands who's never been in a fight in their life, or this is their first match, they're judging. And I'll never forget my first loss ever. I think I might have been 19. I can't remember. I was fighting this 24-year-old biker, huge guy, and I beat the brakes off him for 3 rounds. And I remember the second round, I had him in full mount, and we were both tired. I didn't eat. I was young. I didn't eat anything before the fight. I was so nervous. And he quit on me in mount, and I will never forget it. I was on top of him, hitting him, and then we were both getting slow, and he was like, guys, I'm going to stand it up. And I'll never forget the ref. I was going for a Kimura, and the ref stood me up. It was his first time reffing, surprise, surprise. And I've just had that luck. I was going for Kimura, and he stood us up at a full mount. And that happened 2 or 3 more times where I got stood up while I was in mount, and I'll never forget. I was so pissed. I was thinking, man, he is quitting under me. That I have won the fight. He has quit, call the fight, and he didn't call it. And so at the end of the day, man, I just have to go in there and finish, I don't want to go 3 rounds. I can, I came back into the game, and I've been fighting very technical. I'm here to throw now. My striking, I've been perfecting it. I just want to throw. I'm not going to ever leave it in the judges' hands again. This is my game. This is my life, my destiny. I've got to go get it.
In terms of your opponent coming here at Valor Fights, Justin Gooden, you mentioned about how you do like to sit there and find stuff about your opponent. I know, sometimes, early in people's careers, amateur-wise, you may not be able to find, but have you been able to find footage of your opponent, and what do you see as his strengths?
There's not a lot on him. I'm not hating on the state of Kentucky or anything at all, but Kentucky does have a reputation for people just wanting to fight. They're just brawlers, not real technical, they're not real good. They just go in there and fight. And as far as Justin goes, I've seen a couple fights of his, and I respect all of my opponents. There's no crap talking by me. I always respect him. He's a big, strong boy. I can tell I think he played some semi-pro football. And, a lot of people can do that, but that's a good achievement. And, he's a big boy. You can tell he likes the weight room. He's going to hang out in there. And, but I've noticed, as far as I looked up his record and, all the guys he's fought, he hasn't really fought anybody good. And that's not a bad thing on him. That's just promotions and whatever. But he hasn't really fought somebody as tall or as big as me, as strong as me, as fast as me. And, I think that's going to definitely be a different pace for him in the cage, and he's going to come out and he's going to give it all he's got, and I respect that. And I think his strengths, he's probably going to be strong. I don't see him being stronger than me. I throw up 405 10 times like it's nothing, or it varies. Sometimes it could be 375, but I don't see that happening. He's going to be a hard hitter for sure, and I need to keep my hands up for that. As far as his strength, I don't really know what else about him other than his weight room. I know he trains at a decent gym. I know he goes there about twice a week, and then the rest of his training is mainly in the weight room and jogging. So and that's really different from me because I'm 6 days a week, 3 to 4 in the gym, cardio and MMA 5 days a week. So it's different, but there's not much footage on him. You can't really get a hold of many of the Kentucky fights. I've only seen like 2 of his fights. But like I said, the guys he's fought, the last guy he fought, guy took it on like 2 weeks notice, and the guy was 5'8", and he just didn't need to be in the cage, bless his heart. I mean, it just wasn't for him. Justin hit him, and he had no idea what to do. So that's what I've learned about Justin so far. But I have a lot of respect for him, and I think he's going to come to bring it. He's going to try to take my head off, and I'm ready.
And, of course, this fight part of Valor Fights, a UMMAF 265-pound qualifier. Are you even thinking about what this a victory here could lead to, or is the mindset just totally on this fight?
Oh, man. I would be lying if I said I don't think about it. I try not to look into the future too much. I do believe in the now and all that. And, I've really just done a lot of praying about it because I have a huge opportunity right here, because if you win this fight, you can go to Arizona, you win there, you get UFC Fan Expo. That is huge exposure, and I'm very blessed with good people and good friends. I'm a very popular fighter around here, and I need to win this fight so that I can fight in my hometown on the 19th in March and go for a title fight. This is definitely a fight I don't want to lose and then have to go fight a big fight like that. So yeah, I mean, the pressure's definitely there. I actually have supposedly the rumor is there's a national sports writer coming to write a piece on me for this fight. So I mean, yeah, the pressure's there. I mean, it's kind of like my entire future rides on this fight. And like I said, I could crack under it and freak myself out and be, I am my worst enemy. I'm not afraid to adjust. I'm not afraid. There's nobody I wouldn't fight. I'd fight Brock Lesnar tomorrow if I was getting paid for it, and I'd do it for the experience. But I've just really got to be calm, do me, and pray, and God's will is going to be done, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I choose not to crack under the pressure. I just choose to look at it as a golden opportunity to witness, and if that's where God wants to send me, then it'll work out just the way I want it.
Gavin, I really do appreciate time. Great insight, and really look forward to seeing what the future lies ahead for you, man.
I appreciate you, sir. Thank you for having me on the show.